Hey loves, Tony here, and welcome to week 2 of the French Press Crochet Along. First off, before we even get into week 2, I want to just flash back on week 1 really quick because we accomplished a lot. Swatches were done, yarn arrived, coffee arrived, hooks arrived. We've worked on the entire upper section of our cardigans, so give yourself a pat on the back. You've done a lot, okay? Now we're ready to move on to the next section of our cardigan, which will be the lower part. So let's jump right into it. So the week 2 milestone is going to be working on the lower section of your cardigan. That's going to involve picking up stitches on the bottom edge of the upper section that we've completed already and then creating the length of your cardigan. So that's going to involve getting back into our extended single crochet mesh as well as working on that applied ribbing technique again. So you'll notice that you got an attachment with this week's email, and that included an updated version of the pattern. I realized as I was working on this very video that I did not explicitly clarify how many stitches to use for your applied ribbing on the bottom of the lower section. That's my mistake. It has been fixed, and you can find that in the updated version of the pattern. If you made your project with the old version of the pattern, don't change a thing, don't rip anything out, don't redo anything. I am sure it is still 100% gorgeous. This is literally just a difference of a few stitches, so don't make any changes, but you can find an updated set of instructions for that bottom ribbing in the pattern. If you don't need any help with the crochet portion of the lower half of your cardigan, you can skip forward to the rest of our week 2 announcements, but for now I'm going to get into the tutorial for the lower section of the French press cardi. When we last left off, this is what we had of our cardigan. This is the full completed upper section, and now we're ready to move on to the lower section. The lower section begins by picking up stitches along the unworked ends of our upper left and upper right and along what will be the back here. So if we flip this over, we can look at the direction we're going to work. We're going to first pick up stitches here, work along this bottom edge, and then we're going to flip our work basically to work along this back edge and flip our work again to work along this right edge. Now the pattern will tell you how many stitches to pick up for your size, and that number is based on the gauge of the pattern. So we want to make sure that as we continue to work down this way that our project doesn't start to bow out or get a little bit too narrow. So that's why I've specified exactly how many stitches to work along each of our 3 edges here. Now I'm going to show you my method for how I'm going to evenly space those stitches. Everybody does it a little bit differently, and I'm going to show you mine. It is not scientific. It is not, I don't know, very sophisticated, but it gets the job done. So what I have here is what I'm going to use to represent my left front. So if you were looking at your project, it would be this section right here, because this is where we're going to start. We're going to start by picking up stitches here and working in this direction. So what I have here is meant to represent the rows that would still be open for us to work on the left front side for the smallest size. So for our smallest size, we're meant to work 28 stitches along this edge, and I actually have a visual aid that I will share with you all. Don't laugh. Don't laugh. I said don't laugh, okay? So I'm going to zoom down a little bit here and kind of talk you through how this makes sense to me. So I have 28 stitches that I need to work along this edge, and I've already counted them. I have 19 rows. Now this will be different for everyone because it really depends on how many rows you have left in this section. But here's how I'm doing it for my piece. So I have 28 total stitches that I need to work over 19 rows. Now when I say 28 stitches, I mean 14 extended single crochets and 14 chains. So I'm going to focus just on the extended single crochet stitches, and for this section I'm going to assume, which is true, that I'm going to pair an extended single crochet with a chain each time. So for the sake of my math, I'm just going to focus on my extended single crochets. So I have 14 extended single crochets to distribute over 19 rows, and that means I'm going to have 5 rows along this bottom edge here that I'm going to skip. Okay? Now what I do at this point is I make little baby circles, and each of these little baby circles represents my 19 rows. So I have 19 little baby circles here. and I need to distribute those 14 extended single crochets, and I already know that I'm skipping 5 stitches. So I'm going to focus on how I'm going to evenly skip those 5 stitches. Now, this is where a little bit of math and a little bit of trial and error comes in. Since I have 5 stitches to skip in 19 rows, I know that 5 evenly distributes through 20 4 times. So I know that I need to skip just about every 4th row. But as I go down this line and start to count where my stitches need to be placed, of course I don't have 20, so I'm going to fudge it and adjust it a little bit. So these are my 19 rows, and I know that I need to skip 5 total rows. I know it says stitches, but I'm skipping 5 total rows here. So for every 4th row, I know I'm going to skip. So this is my 4th circle, so I know I'm skipping that row. 1, 2, 3, I know I'm skipping that row. 1, 2, 3, and then I'm skipping that row. 1, 2, 3, and then I'm skipping that row. And then when I get here down at the end, I only have 3 left. I don't have 4, so I'm going to skip this last one. So I've got my 5 skipped, and then I have 14 rows left, and I know I'm working into each of those. So again, this is not super scientific, but it's going to get the job done. It's going to leave me with the number of stitches that I need. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit and show you how we're going to pick up those stitches and how we're going to work these rows. So we're going to start off by inserting our hook into the end of that first row, yarn over, pull up the loop, chain 3, and that counts as our first extended single crochet as well as a chain 1. So if we look at our bubbles that we created, we're going to place stitches in the first 3 rows and skip the 4th row. So this is my first extended single crochet and a chain 1 in my first row. Now I'm going to go into my 2nd row, chain 1, and my 3rd row, chain 1. Now I'm skipping my next row and then extended single crocheting each of the next 3. And this is all based on my diagram I made here. So I've done up to here so far, and now I'm working in each of the next 3 rows and skip the following row. So we're skipping this row, extended single crochet in each of the next 3. Of course, it's followed by a chain 1. There's 2, and there's 3. And skipping the next row. Extended single crochet in each of the next 3. Here's 1, here's 2, and here's 3. Skipping the next row. Again, extended single crochet in each of the next 3. Here's 2 and 3. And I'm skipping the next row. Now, just like in my diagram, here I have 3 rows left, and I have 3 rows left on my swatch here. So in my diagram, I say to work in each of the next 2 and skip the last one. So I'm working in each of the next 2, my extended single crochet still followed by chains, and I'm skipping the last row. So let's go through and count. I should have 28 total stitches here. I'm going to tighten down a little bit so we can count through this together. So my first chain 3 plus my first chain 3 counts as an extended single crochet plus the chain. And remember, when we count our 28 stitches, we are counting our chain stitches. So we have 1 extended single crochet here with a chain, that's 2. Here's 3, and its chain makes 4. Here's 5, and its chain makes 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, and this last chain here makes 28. Now at this point, if I was working on my full-size cardigan, I would have all my stitches up to here, and I would now flip to start working across the back. Now, if this method works for you, you can do the same method for the back and also for the right front. Then you just be starting right over here and distribute your stitches. You'll of course want to count how many rows you have so you distribute your stitches evenly. So I'm going to go ahead and distribute some stitches evenly over my sample swatch here and show you what we're going to do to continue working down the back of our cardigan. And here we are. I've picked up stitches along my bottom edge, starting from my left front here all the way around the back into my right front. So when I was working up my stitches, I always had the same side of my work facing me. And now we're going to start working in turned rows in our established pattern to continue the work. So remember, we start with the chain 3. We're going to turn, and then extended single crochet in the next single crochet, extended single crochet stitch, chain 1, extended single crochet in the next extended single crochet, chain 1, and we're working that all the way around. So it's the same stitch pattern we've been working for the entire body of our cardigan, but now we're just working in a different direction. No more increasing, no decreasing here. We're just working in our regular established pattern all the way around the body of our cardigan, and that's what's going to give us our length. And we also won't have any more seaming in our project either, now that the top half is already completed. So that's just a quick example of kind of how we're going to start adding some length to our cardigan, because now we're working in this direction. So you're going to keep working until the length that is mentioned in the pattern, and then we're going to get to our lower ribbing and come back and do part of that together. So here's what we have once we've completed this lower section to the correct length. Of course, yours is going to be much longer, much larger than mine is. And now we can move on to the next row, which is on the body lower section. And we're just going to single crochet in each stitch around. So similar to what we did before the ribbing on the right side sleeve. Oh, I chained up too many here. We're going to start with the chain 1 and turn our work, and single crochet in each stitch. So we're starting with this first extended single crochet right here, working into that stitch and into the chain space, into the next stitch, and into the next chain space, continuing on with our 6.5 millimeter hook. And this is going to get us set up for the bottom ribbing. So just continue working a single crochet in each stitch across to the other side of the row. Just a couple more stitches here. Last one goes into the second chain of the starting chain 3. And now we can switch to our 5.5 millimeter hook to start our ribbing. So for our ribbing, we're going to start with chaining 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And we're going to go right back into our applied ribbing technique. So single crochet in the second chain from the hook, and each chain down. There's 3, 4, here's 5, and 6. We're going to flip our work around to start working around the single crochets that we made in our last row there. Slip stitch into the first 2 single crochets, turn our work, skip the slip stitches, and work up that row of single crochets just in the back loop. There's 3, there's 4, 5, and 6. Make sure you're working this bottom edge with your smaller size hook, the 5.5 millimeter. We end with a chain 1, turn, single crochet in the back loop of each single crochet. There's 3, 4, 5, and 6. Oop, there we go, 6. Slip stitch in each of the next 2 single crochets along your bottom edge here. There's 1 and 2, turn, and then we'll work back up just like we have been doing our applied ribbing for that right sleeve. So when you look at your project, look at the work that we're doing. We're starting here. You might be starting on the opposite side. It depends on what row, if you ended on a right side row or a wrong side row, it really doesn't matter. So we're going to work on putting our ribbing along the entire bottom edge. We're going to work all the way across the back and all the way across the front here. Once you're done, you'll want to cut your yarn, weave in your ends, and get ready for the next section. So several of you are right on track when it comes to the milestones for our crochet along, and some of you have even moved far ahead. So pat yourselves on the back for your diligence for getting through this pattern. Now I really want to talk to the people who might be getting a little bit discouraged because they're falling behind. Please understand that I recognize that many of us are in different places when it comes to our crochet skills, when it comes to our ability to read patterns, when it comes to just our lives in general. Some of us do not have the luxury of sitting down and crocheting for hours. I recognize that. I am right there with you. I'll be completely honest, I have only worked through the left section of the upper side of my cardigan because life gets crazy. I totally understand. Please do not get discouraged if you are falling behind on the crochet along. And if you do find as you're working through your project that you need help, do not hesitate to reach out. I am here for you. The rest of the folks in the CAL are here for you. Make sure you're sending questions directly to me, tlyarncrafts@gmail.com, or you can put them in our Facebook group. They are full of folks that have been insanely generous in offering help and understanding of this pattern. Do not feel like you're alone on this. The entire point of a crochet along is to have that community and feel like we're all doing this together, okay? So keep up as best as you can, but do not feel like you have to stick to the milestones with this crochet along. I just want us all to have a ton of fun together. And speaking of the French Press CAL community, I am so excited to highlight one particular person, that is Miss Lori Kramer, who finished her French press cardi in just 2 days. Can you believe it? Here go a couple photos of Lori's cardi. She worked on it with Lion Brand jeans in a pretty light indigo color, and it just looks fantastic. She talked about in her Instagram post how she would love to pair this with some sleeveless dresses as we transition into the fall season. Big congrats to Lori on winning the first finished prize. I just can't say enough about Lori. She's just a fantastic crocheter. She's an amazing pattern tester, and she's also dabbling in design. So you can find Lori on Instagram. I'm going to put her handle right down here so you can check her out there and just give her lots of love. Now, there are plenty of prizes still up for grabs in the crochet along. Of course, there's Most Loved, which involves you uploading your project to Ravelry, and then the project that gets the most hearts will win a bundle of prizes. You can find details on what's in that bundle as well as a link to where to upload your project on Ravelry, and all of that is in your welcome packet. In addition to Most Loved, the CAL Groupie and Hashtag Master bundles of prizes are still up for grabs as well, so make sure you're staying active in our Facebook group and posting using the French Press CAL hashtag on Instagram. I have really enjoyed following along with each and every one of you as you make your French press cardis. I've been low-key stalking the French Press CAL hashtag on Instagram, and there have been some amazing images that have popped up as part of our photo challenge last week. So last week I asked you all to post photos of your projects with your favorite snacks, and I've seen everything from healthy snacks to things that are a little bit more indulgent, some non-conventional snacks as well. So I pulled a few of my favorite images, and I'm going to share those right now. Our CAL Photo Challenge continues on this week, and this week's prompt is to share who you are sharing your crochet along experience with. Are you crocheting with your favorite pet? Maybe you've got a tidy little baby that's hanging out with you. Perhaps you're taking your project to your Sip and Stitch group. I would love to know who you are sharing your French press cardi crocheting with. Make sure you snap photos and put them in our Facebook group, and also share them on Instagram using the hashtag FrenchPressCal. I can't wait to share some of your pictures as the week goes on. I'll be posting some in my stories. I'll also be gathering a bunch for a carousel that I'll post on Thursday on Instagram, and you might even see your image right here in next week's CAL announcements. All right, loves, I am keeping this short and sweet because I actually need to go work on my cardi. I am so far behind and really want to catch up with all of you. Thanks so much for hanging, and I can't wait to see your progress.